really hard and they execute your system, and that's what it's all about.
Yes, sir.
Trust.
Big trust. Baby.
Hey, yes, sir.
Right on cue. Hey, right on cue. Hey, let me close.
Thank you, Mr. Bronson. We are back on the jumbo set. It is week 1 of the NFL season, 2023. Who would have thought? Look at us. Who would have thought we made it? We made it. Football's back. You know, it's really back this time. It's not like the kind of the tease that we get in August with Hard Knocks and with all the associated things. Back in a big way. Football weather, not back in a big way. And I hate to continue to open the show with weather talk, but it is just absolutely brutally hot out there, 100 degrees in some cases in our area. That makes it tough, but you know, we're both going to be out there at the game this coming Sunday. Ravens versus Houston Texans, I should say. My name is Jake Luke. I'm joined by Spencer Schultz. We're here to discuss a little bit of that, but mainly we are here to do a full preview of the 2023 NFL season. I don't know if we've done this every year, but it's something we started doing at the
We've done at least 2.
Yeah, we started doing it 2 years ago, I want to say, and it's been a really fun exercise. So we kind of just go through every team, courtesy of our friends over at Playoff Predictors. So check them out. Shout out, no free ads, but they've got a great product on their hands that helps you go through the schedule of each week and do kind of like a full pick 'em. So we've got our full predictions for the 2023 NFL season. But before we get into it, how we doing?
Doing well, excited, trying to get as many best ball lineups as I possibly can in. If you feel like you're listening to this and you haven't gotten enough fantasy, you should download the Underdog app. It's hard to explain, but basically you're able to go do a draft where you draft and that's it. You draft, there's no waivers, there's no subs, there's no trades, nothing you can do. It's the best. You can just filter on through. Go check out Underdog. You can use my code. You can do a paid one. I won a bunch of money last year. It is fucking awesome. I highly recommend. Shout out to our boy Jack Settleman, who I saw in a commercial.
Settleman. Yeah.
The Settleman. He threw out the first pitch for Underdog in the Royals game last night. So use my code SpennyP53 and you'll get a $100 deposit match. And I'll get like $10 or something. And then we can make a bunch of money together. So go check that out. I've only done 2 fantasy leagues. It's the lowest I think I've ever done. I promised myself many times before that I would not do more than 2, and I end up with 3 or 4 or something. So I've eliminated that down. Just excited for really gambling. This is our first thorough full year of gambling being allowed in the state of Maryland. So we're fired up for that. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'll be putting out a bunch of picks and stuff, and it was fun doing this exercise. I hate the results that I ended up getting, but it was weird. A lot of weird teams. I ended up with a ton of 11-6 teams. We'll get to all that, but Ravens going to be hosting the Texans. I mean, rookie quarterback. We'll preview this a little later this week and stuff like that, but feels good. Feels like the football season came just in time. I wasn't itching for it too terribly this year, but I'm ready to go.
Yeah, no, it's going to be fun. Thanks for the reminder there. I got to play some bones on this Carlos Alcaraz match coming up. But yeah, it's been an interesting ride here the last couple of weeks, and it's certainly going to be an interesting opening to the season with that Texans team coming to town. That rookie quarterback feels like a little bit of a handshake opener, but you never know. And like you said, we will get into it on the flagship podcast coming on Friday. So as you're listening to this, it will be coming out tomorrow on the flagship pod. We've got another pod coming out today with the Orioles doing what they're doing. We've got to keep that content cranking out. So things are going to be releasing on the same day. Sometimes it's going to be interesting scheduling. So bear with us, but I mean, it's not really going to be an issue for you guys because it's just more content coming your way. So without further ado, I guess we can get into this one then. So how do you want to break this down? I've got my playoff predictors pulled up, and I've got all my division winners and everything, and then full playoff run through. So do you want to just go division by division and we'll break things down?
My only question is, do you want to start with the AFC North or do you want to finish with the AFC North?
Let's finish with it.
I like that too.
Keep the people guessing and waiting.
I like that. Start us somewhere in the NFC. You call the NFC.
NFC. So my top overall seed, and this is the weird thing about doing this is when you pick these game by game, you're kind of like, oh, well, that's a win. Oh, well, that's a win. Oh, well, that's a win. And like, it's kind of just like you think about the overall teams, but maybe you don't think about some of the weirdness that might go on with the games. And that's just the nature of the beast with picking week by week, especially where we're at right now. We don't know how the season's going to go down. But as of right now, I have got the number 1 seed. You'll be surprised to hear is the Kyle Shanahan-led San Francisco 49ers and Brock Purdy coming off of Tommy John surgery at 13-4, 5-1 in their division, leading the NFC West. Behind them, I have the Seattle Seahawks going 10-7, 4-2 in their division. LA Rams clocked in at a surprising 8-9. And this is like what I said with the weirdness of it. I don't know what's going to happen with Matthew Stafford. I don't know what's going on with that roster to a certain extent, but I don't know. Sean McVay, I think, probably factored into some of my picks. I think Stafford's talent and ability to overcome in certain situations factored into my picks. So 8-9 for them. And then 1-16 for the Arizona Cardinals, 1-5 in their division. So only managing one win that I could see. So like I said, some weirdness with it. It's kind of like how simulations sometimes you're like, all right, what the hell's going on with that? I'm not really sure. But yeah, that's how I had it shaken out. The Niners as the top overall seed in the NFC at 13-4. And then Seahawks behind them at 10-7. We're also a playoff team there at the 7th seed.
Yeah, the 49ers I had going 11-6. I had them as the number 2 seed in the NFC. I had them 5-1 in their division. I had Seahawks 9-8, Rams 4-13, Cardinals 1-16. I just carried them on through, taking big fat L's left and right. I think that's what they want to do. Caleb Williams with some comments from his father, actually, I think trickling out today, saying that, if we don't like the team that we're going to go to, then we're not going to go there.
You know what's funny about that is like this reminds me of Kyler Murray 4 years ago, right? When he went on Dan Patrick and like he just wouldn't give any answers, and his dad is like off to the side, like kind of advising him on like what to say and what not to say, and like that was just kind of a weird draft process overall for a lot of reasons, some of which not totally his fault, I don't think, but like Kyler, I've just gotten weird vibes with that guy. I just think he might be a little bit of an empty vessel when it's all said and done. And yeah, I think to your point, we both had him 1-16. I think they are trying to lose to an extent. Jonathan Gannon certainly not inspiring a ton of confidence in me. I don't think he's a bad guy. I think he might just be a little in over his head here. And yeah, I think they hit the reset button on the quarterback position again. And it's going to be interesting to see what Kyler Murray's market looks like a year from now.
Definitely. Kyler Murray, I feel like there's just everybody has a friend that's like Kyler Murray, where he just like can never not get like frustrated or mad, like golfing or like at somebody's house, or like you go out and it's like, when's he going to get pissed off
He's
about
like
something?
trying to fight. Yeah. Like, and like he doesn't even
It's very like argumentative. I'm not saying Kyler is, but there's just like that one friend that's always like, he's always been, like, what is he even talking about? Like, doesn't even make any sense.
Yeah.
Why are they talking about that?
Yeah. It's like, just chill out, man. You're scaring the, well, no, we don't have to go down that route, but yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Cardinals they were in rough shape for me. So yeah, that's how we have the NFC West shaking out. Do you want to move over to the AFC West?
Just general thoughts on NFC West real quick. Like I want the Seahawks to be a playoff team. I think they very well could be. Like I said, I hate my rankings, but Seahawks are super interesting. Them and the Lions, we'll get to the Lions eventually, but historically bad run defenses, like terrible, awful defenses. The Seahawks made some moves to shore that up. They get solid in the interior of their defense, and I'm just curious to see what Pete Carroll can do there. Geno Smith looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFC last year. So when I'm doing this, I really just try to look at quarterback head coach. Like a lot of times it's like, I try not to shape it the way that I have a bias towards it. I try to throw some randomness into it and stuff, but Pete Carroll, Geno Smith, one of the better ones there.
I mean, Jackson Smith and Jigba are going to be healthy for week 1 here too. So I think that's big. They got a good receiving core. Like
good offensive line, good receiving core, Charbonnet, Walker. Their defense is like, all right. They bring Bobby Wagner back to help fix that run defense. So hate where I have them. Probably having the playoffs. Rams, I think are just a hot pile of garbage. Like
I think they kind of want to transition out of this too. I think it was Cousin Sal on the on Simmons the other day was like, they have like probably this handshake thing going on with Stafford where it's like, hey kid, like good work for us, but like this is kind of over. So I totally get that, but I do think that with his time, and like I'm not married to this take. It's like I said, just going through it and seeing, okay, they're playing this team and this quarterback and this coach. When it is to your point, it is kind of a quarterback coach thing that you look at. Maybe there were just 6 situations where I was like, all right, they have the better quarterback, the better coach. Maybe they're at home. And then 2 other situations were like, all right, they pull off an upset here. So I had them at 8 and 9. very well they could be worse than that. I kind of expect them to be.
I would be shocked if Stafford makes it through the season and doesn't kind of just trifle off with an injury at some point.
Yeah, just kind of shut it down and then retire.
They have an unprecedented amount of rookies and like second and third year players. They have like, I think of their 53-man roster, it's like 35 plus rookie or second year players or something because they had no picks.
I'm trying to remember who said, I think it might have been Field Yates on PMT said that like you can do what they do with the buying on the credit card type thing, but you just have to keep doing it. Otherwise you're in for a really tough rebuild. And we're seeing that with them right now. And then seeing that with Tampa.
They have their first round pick next year.
Yeah. And it's going to be the first time in a long time. So they want to get back to where they were before all this F them picks kind of stuff. And you know what? I'm not even criticizing it. They won a Super Bowl. Tampa Bay won a Super Bowl, but this is kind of
McVay in general confuses me because I feel like it's such a brutal spot to be in roster wise. Like they've got Donald and, Kupp who's banged up and a couple of things, but it's like, I was pretty shocked that he came back. So I'm just curious to see how long he lasts there. And like you said, it's going to have to be
Donald contemplated retirement too. Like it's crazy.
Right.
I mean, yeah, Kupp's, he's getting a little bit older and a couple injuries. He's not going to play in week 1. They're contemplating IR for him for at least the first 4 weeks is how that would work. So yeah, it's going to be a rough start to them, I think.
Why would they not? It just doesn't make sense. Why would McVay want to stay there? Clearly getting the offers to walk away for a couple of years, just like Gruden, just like where he came from Gruden, and then maybe go elsewhere. I mean, I feel like the only reason it makes sense is if he can kind of take a step back, not have that serious of a season, like focus on getting everything right there procedurally and whatever, and then go get a Caleb Williams or Drake May or something. That's the only way this makes sense to me. He's getting paid a lot of money too, so that also, but I feel like he can make money elsewhere.
And they're so galaxy brain that they could be literally just tanking the season. And they're like, all right, we'll get Caleb Williams. And like, we're just going to start over and that's it. Like,
and then go spend on the credit card again.
Yeah, exactly. And that would be honestly pretty savvy and pretty shrewd, but you got to be able to pull it off. Like players and coaches do not tank. Like
Aaron Donald is on that team and came back.
Yeah. Like the players on the field and especially the guys that have won a Super Bowl are not going to tank, but as a general manager, you do that. So yeah, going to be an interesting dynamic there in LA.
Niners, big news there. Nick Bosa signs a unbelievably gigantic mega
Ravens legend, Nick Bosa.
He signed for more money than Daniel Jones did. Almost like I think it was 5,172. I don't think
still not Chris Jones, still not in territory of what Chris Jones is asking for, which is pretty funny though.
Oh, is that the case? Chris Jones wants more than Bosa?
I think so. Yeah.
Oh my God.
If I'm Kansas City, maybe I just bite the bullet. But
that's nuts. Niners to me very odd. We'll see. Purdy's a frisky guy, kind of like a more creative Jimmy G. Feels like he can play a little more out of structure, a little more mobile. It just feels to me like they got a lot of guys that have a lot of wear and tear on their bodies. They're a really physical team always. I think that's kind of what's propelled them is that they are top level violent over the last few years here. So I just don't know if I trust Debo and Kittle, Trent Williams, all those guys to stay healthy, but I had them as the 2 seed. So
there you go. So me with them as the 1 seed, you with them as the 2 seed. And that is the NFC West. AFC West, how about you lead us off?
I have the Chiefs winning the conference at 12-5, which conference winner will definitely have a better record than that, just how it shook out. Had the Chargers 10-7, taking the 7 seed. Had the Broncos at 9-8. The Broncos, I think, are really tough, but then I had the Raiders at 5-12. The Broncos are going to win 7 games. Their defense is disgusting. Probably is going to end up being the best defense in the NFL, I feel like. Easily up there. I just don't know if they win like 7 or like 11 games or 10 games or something. I don't know. I trust Sean Payton. The comments about Russell Wilson there, hilarious. Like, what are you kissing babies for? Like, cut this shit out, please, for the love of God. So really weird. I have a lot of faith in the Chargers this year, which might be stupid. I felt stupid at times doing that. Not talked about enough how bad that playoff game was. Yeah. Truly, horribly, disgustingly, one of the most gross losses I've ever watched. And then the Chiefs, man, I'm just fine to pick Mahomes and Reed and whatever, and we'll see. And they've got their issues with Chris Jones and Kelsey's banged up at the moment, but I would imagine I don't see them going 10-7. I would think 11 wins is the minimum that they come out with this year.
Yeah, I got them at 13-4. They go 6-0 in the AFC West, which I was kind of surprised by, but I don't know. I feel like they could win 10 games in their sleep, to your point, and then 13. It's not out of the realm of possibility. So 1 seed for them. This conference, the AFC in general, is fucking loaded this year. Like, it's hard. So I had the Chargers at 9-8. They were the 9 seed. They missed out by more than one spot. They go 2-4 in the division. Broncos 6-11. I kind of didn't love that looking back on it, but week over week, like, it was one of those things where it's just like, all right, bad matchup here, bad matchup there. Schedules really matter in this, I think. And like, that's something that people don't consider as much when you just look at a team and say, all right, 10-7. Well, you got to consider the nuances of their schedule a little bit. And when you're away, when you're across the country and being a West Coast Mountain Time team, that
the
can
cool thing
affect
about doing it this too is you can see the rest. You can see who has the rest advantage, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's probably just how it shook out a little bit for me. I probably would expect them to be a little bit better, but just that's how the math shook out. So 6-11 for the Broncos, also 2-4 in the division, as well as the Raiders, who were 2-4 in the division. I had it 5-12. That is a weird situation there right now.
Yeah, we had those divisions playing out pretty similarly. I agree that the Raiders are super peculiar. Chandler Jones flipping out right now over some situations with McDaniels and Ziegler and whatever the hell is going on. Jimmy G, like, I honestly like Jimmy G more than most people. I feel like in San Francisco, but I just don't think there's the level of functionality or normality that's going on there. The ownership contributes to that to a degree. They do have star power. Josh Jacobs comes back, which is all good and dandy, but there's the classic, like, what do running backs do after they have 400 touches in a season? If your name's not Derrick Henry, not a whole lot typically. Adrian Peterson. So I think that's going to be tough. Devontae Adams obviously there. They've got some pieces. It's just I don't feel that they're a competitively serious team, especially in that division. So 5-12, we both had them at.
We have only seen Josh McDaniels be a bad NFL head coach. Like,
they made the playoffs with Tebow and whatever, and that was, fun and cool and whatnot, but that was a long time ago. We've only seen dysfunction.
Yeah, and it's like his first move when he got there was telling Jay Cutler, like, your fucking, like, your reign of whatever is over. And like, Jay Cutler is certainly not the like most easy guy to work with either, but he immediately went to his agent. He's like, I cannot fucking work with this guy. You're getting me out of Denver right now. So that's how you get to Tebow in the first
Cutler
place.
Very well could have been like a Flacco.
Yeah, he should have been. In fact, he probably was at certain points, but he was just not surrounded by as good of a team or as good of coaching. And I mean, Josh McDaniels, I just can't buy him as a head coach. There's just something really like, there's always a sense of like cantankerousness surrounding these Josh McDaniels teams. Like, why does it have to be all this drama? Like, and I don't know. I thought when he took this job and some of his comments and stuff, I was like, okay, maybe he's moved on from this trying to be the next Belichick thing, which is a big mistake a lot of these Belichick disciples make. And it just, I don't know. It never seems like it's there. And I'm not sure Jimmy G or Tom Brady coming out of retirement is going to be the thing that's going to take this team over the top. And I like Jimmy G as an operator within a Kyle Shanahan system, but I don't know as much about him with Josh here.
Yeah, and even just on paper, looking around their depth chart, I mean, you've got a couple stars. You've got your Max Crosbys. You've got your Devontae Adams, your Josh Jacobs. Their offensive line was like surprisingly good last year, from what I recall. Illuminor at right tackle, Greg Van Roten, Andre James, Dylan Parham, Colton Miller. Like, sure, that could be an okay group. Defensively, you just look around and it's like, nothing really pops to you. Patrick Graham, a nice coordinator, but in that division with the dysfunctional presence that they bring, just poopy.
Yeah, it's tough.
Probably, I will say, I actually think, I didn't realize, I have them as tied for the worst team in the AFC, actually.
I do as well.
So, Raiders, I'm sorry. In the words of Kenny Powers, you're effing out.
I had them solo worst team in the AFC. This is pretty stacked conference.
It is.
Yeah. Okay, moving back to the NFC, we can go to the NFC Beast, otherwise known as the NFC East, where I had the Dallas Cowboys as your 2 seed at 12-5, 4-2. I just think that defense is, Micah Parsons ready to freaking explode here. I think that defense is going to still be really good. And then the offense, Mike McCarthy calling plays is a little weird to me. We'll see how all that works out. But I do feel like, at least he's going to own it. And Dak is fine. Dak can get you to double-digit wins. And then, a couple things break your way. You can get to 12-5. Dak's won 13 games before. He did it as a rookie. So you got that. They were the 2 seed in the conference for me behind the Niners. The Philadelphia Eagles I had as a wild card, 5 seed, 11-6, 3-3 within the division. New York Giants also as a wild card. I had them 10-7, 3-3. I think a lot of people are expecting a Giants regression. I think just because they saw it as kind of a, Cinderella story, Brian Dable getting the most out of Daniel Jones. But I don't know. I expect a little bit more consistency. I think people probably expected that with Josh Allen and Sean McDermott back when he started to get the most out of Josh Allen, but it just kind of continued rolling. So maybe this Sean McDermott disciple can keep it rolling here. And then coming up the rear, 7-10, Washington Commanders, 2-4 in the division. I like what I've seen out of Sam Howell. I'm sure there'll be some progress there. Offense is going to be good. Defense has some pieces, but I don't know if this is the year they quite fully take the leap of playoff team quite yet.
I love those takes very much. I have Eagles 12-5, number 1 seed in the NFC. I have the Giants as a wild card 6 seed, 10-7, which I wanted to be a lot higher than 10-7. The Cowboys I had at 9-8, missing the playoffs, the 8 seed. Could go in any direction there from 8-9 in my mind up through, like you had them at, I believe, 12-5. Mm-hmm. Then I had the Commanders similarly at 7-10. So we both had the Giants and the Commanders with the same record there. I'm just not sold on Ron Rivera. Ron Rivera was brought in to weather a shitstorm by Dan Snyder. And I think the Commanders are the type of team, coaching-wise, Bieniemy in a good spot to really have them explode, I think could bring some great things out of a guy like Antonio Gibson, a guy like Jahan Dotson, a guy like Terry McLaurin. I just feel like they're going to be really good in like 2 years. They have a lot of talent. They can beat good teams. They could absolutely make the playoffs. Cowboys, Mike McCarthy, I don't like calling plays. I think that's what went wrong in Green Bay. I think that's why I kind of took them to lose some tough games and a tough schedule and a tough division. They have a tough schedule this year.
Yeah.
I don't know that they have enough breadth offensively in terms of depth on their playmakers. Tony Pollard coming off of a tightrope surgery to fix his broken leg. Love Tony Pollard, but I would definitely bet money on him to miss time this year. We'll see. 9-8 feels comfy for me. Giants, I'm all in. I think the exact opposite. I think it's great head coach, great play caller, quarterback that can get it done, weapons, hungry defense. We know what Wink Martindale does. It's the same shit that the Ravens still kind of do. They make tough games. They might get, rocked defensively once or twice, but a lot of times they're going to force turnovers, get sacks, make quarterbacks uncomfortable. I love their team. I love their coaching staff. I love their playmakers. I love the additions they've made this offseason.
Some football teams are teams. The Giants are a football program right now. Like they got a program over there. They got a great head coach, great coaching staff all the way down. They're just there.
Cheap quarterback that like shuts the hell up and will run and just
he puts his body on the line. Like he's a warrior, man. So yeah, I got a lot of respect for what they're doing over there.
Definitely. Eagles to me, just pass rush, like the back end for them, shaky. I read, I think Ben Solak's article, one X factor for every team. He said Nakobe Dean. If Nakobe Dean has a great year over the middle of the field, the
front seven is just so fucking good. Like it's gonna.
And Howie will make another move. Like if they don't have corners, all of a sudden, boom, they'll have one. They'll have Jair Alexander or something.
Yeah, he'll figure out whatever he has to do. He'll figure it out, and he'll fleece whoever it is, and they'll win 9 games with a bird box blindfold on. And I got them winning 11, and number 2 seed or. Well, no, actually, I had them the number 5 seed, but they very easily could swap games with the Cowboys there and then be right in that number 2 seed slot. So,
definitely, I would be shocked if they missed playoffs. Offensive line's intact. I think Devontae Smith has a monster year, getting ready to get paid. AJ Brown worries me a little health-wise. I think him and Debo are in that category of like way too physical for way too long, and they've already gotten paid. So, they might sit out a little or not feel urgent and want to be more fresh for the playoffs, things like that. Similarly to the Chiefs, I feel the Eagles can somewhat sleepwalk into 10 wins easily.
Vibes are going to be good there with Jalen's contract and everything. It's similar to the Ravens, I think. That some comparisons have been made there, I think, by Josina Anderson and people. So yeah, I like that a lot.
We know how I feel about Howie, Eric DaCosta, very good friends. Howie's once betrayed his good friend Eric DaCosta, but similar. Those are both programs. I love what you said about the Giants, about the program. Spot on. And I think the Ravens program and the Eagles program are pretty similar right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's full buy-in from tip to top to the bottom. AFC East. This was an interesting one for me. This is going to be. I had the Jets winning the division, and they're the number 2. Yeah, 11-6, 5-1 in the division. Bills also 11-6, but they go 4-2 in the division, so they are the 5 seed. Pats miss out at 7-10, 2-4 in the division. That's just a lifeless, faceless program to me right now. They are not a program; they are a program. And then Dolphins 6-11, 1-5, which I thought was kind of weird, but I do think that's another like function of schedule thing. And Tua, like some of the stuff with the judo rolling and like some of the the health is weird to me. And like you gotta you're going to have to probably win games with other quarterbacks at certain points. They got a ton of talent. I respect the shit out of Mike McDaniel and what they've built roster wise, but it feels a little incoherent to me, not super cohesive. So 6-11 for the Dolphins, missing out surprisingly to some.
I really want them in there badly. They go get Mike White, who I think is probably a functional backup and would run that McDaniel Shanahan system decently in the event too it does go down. I want them in the playoffs badly. I went Jets 11-6. I had to like put some L's on the Jets. I had to be like, they're not going to go 15-2. Maybe they do. Pass rush off the charts, talent on the back end. They've got a captain there in CJ Mosley we're all familiar with defensively. Offensive line, if Mekhi Becton is a stud finally and is like healthy and feels good, and they've got him on the right side, they've got a solid offensive line otherwise. The talents there at receiver. Rodgers obviously is going to do everything he possibly can to have a renaissance there. So 11-6 for them. The Bills, I hate being 10-7. I had the Dolphins 10-7 as well, missing the playoffs. The Bills making the wild card at 10-7. I had the Patriots at 6-11. Likewise, it is well said. Program, not a program. But I just struggle to think that the Bills are going to lose 7 games. I think Josh Allen's too good. Yeah. I think that they are a solid squad, have the buy-in, they're hungry. Things haven't been exactly, what you'd like to see there in Buffalo, some weird rumblings. 7 losses feels terrible for them. So I don't like that part about how this turned out. I don't like the Dolphins missing the playoffs. I think the most underrated move maybe any team made this year was Vic Fangio becoming their defensive coordinator. Obviously, Jalen Ramsey's out a bit, but they bring the madness. They bring the noise. I think that they have a stout run defense. I think they've got some pass rushers cooking. Xavier Howard is still there while he's not, that top shelf corner that he maybe was for a little, or Jalen Ramsey. I see the Dolphins always being a tough out. I think if Tyreek Hill stays healthy and you get 12 to 15 games out of Tua, they're probably going to run a bunch of points up with Mike McDaniel, and they've got Fangio's defense to go take the life out of you in the fourth quarter. I think they can beat anybody. I just don't know health-wise and some of their weaknesses. It feels like maybe not a world beater, but could very easily be in the playoffs. So really tough division to pick. And like, as you're doing this activity, picking the season, it's hard on the Jets. It was hard for me to not pick the Jets to do as well as I subconsciously kind of put them at. Hard for me to make the Bills lose 7 games. Hard for me to have the Dolphins miss the playoffs. And it is hard. The easiest of these evils is the Patriots coming in last in that division. But, that doesn't make you feel good when you look at your rankings and you're like, the Patriots are going to go 6-11. Probably not.
Yeah, no, and that's the weirdness again of like the scheduling and going through it week by week. But that's just how you look at it sometimes. Like you get a road stand and it's like, oh, well, that's a tough stretch for them. Maybe they lose 2 in a row. And then, yeah, it's just kind of the way that it breaks. And like I said, I had the Bills and the Jets as the same exact record at 11-6 there. So I think that division beats itself up a little bit. Tough schedule. And yeah, the Bills, there has been some weirdness and things going on with them, not just like this year, but the last couple of years with Diggs and some of that drama and all that. And I don't know, I'm sure they're mostly over it. And Josh Allen is very much one of the guys and a guy you can rally around, I think. So they'll keep it together, I think. But yeah, I had them 11-6, like I said, and they were the 5 seed. So first one outside looking in there. NFC South.
NFC South, I'm super bullish on the Falcons. Probably my biggest Achilles heel betting wise, and on some props and some other things.
I was too the first time I really sat down and looked at this. I had them, spoiler alert, I have them outside looking in, but I really when I was looking at them, I was like, man, this, they got an easy schedule. And if Ritter puts it together,
they don't have a quarterback in their division. It feels like they're the most complete team. Desmond Ritter, obviously a huge question mark. I'll just rattle them off. 9-8 for the Falcons. They're the 4 seed. 9-8 for the Saints, which I don't like. I think they missed the playoffs, but like you said, Panthers and Bucks not posing a huge threat there. Panthers 6-11. I had the Panthers somehow going 4-2 in the division. I don't love that. That won't happen. Bucks 4-13, bringing up the rear, and are the 15th seed in the NFC.
So very similar to me. I had the Saints at 10-7, 5-1 in the division. Falcons 9-8, so they just miss out there. They're the 8th seed, 4-2. I'm sure if they get one win on the Saints, or one more win on the Saints, they're probably taking that spot at 10-7. So I did really like the Falcons. So, I mean, when I first, like I said, started doing this, I had them at way more wins, and then I kind of really started to go through it with a fine tooth comb, and I was like, okay, maybe not quite that, but I think they're building something there for sure. So yep, 9-8 for the Falcons. They miss out. 4-13 for the Panthers, 2-4 in the division. Bryce Young, probably enough magic to get you a couple wins, but not a whole lot going on with that roster. Brian Burns, I would probably, if I were them, prioritize getting him as happy as they can get him. Pause. And then, yeah, just not a whole lot going on with that roster. Like I said, I mean, some wide receiver stuff. Thielen's already hurt. Who could have ever seen that coming? And then, yeah, Bucks 2-15, 15 seed in the conference as well.
You look at, like I said, you look at quarterbacks and coaches. Maybe I'm a little too bullish. My major issue with the Falcons is if Arthur Smith, I think the world of Arthur Smith. I don't know what it is. I can't even pontificate it. He's what, the UPS man's son? FedEx man's son. There we go. He's Tom Hanks in transit, getting lost, screaming for Wilson. But the Falcons, it's like if Arthur Smith is just a good coordinator and not a good head coach, then I fall on my ass. They're 7-10. They were so close last year to being functional. Mariota, and you see it in that quarterbacks documentary, was such a baby. And they kind of even downplayed how big of a baby he was. Like, they could have pushed for the playoffs. They decided it was better if they didn't, which was probably a smart choice. I just think they can stop the run. They can rush the passer. They're going to beat the shit out of teams on the ground on offense. Drake London, I love. Kyle Pitts, I've talked about. Very weird player at this point, but we'll see. They still have Algier there. Like, they're going to run the ball on teams. I think Ritter's okay. We saw Ritter come into Baltimore, a tough defense to dissect as a rookie, and look solid.
And he played with no fear in that game. He was hawking it up to London, and like he was, hanging in there on 3rd and longs. Like,
didn't look like a neophyte.
Yeah, he impressed me.
Definitely. So like them a lot. I could see them winning 10, 11 games. I have them at 9-8. The Saints, I think, get this residual hangover from Sean Payton being there, where it's like we think of the Saints as a program, but they're not anymore. They're okay. They're fine. They're middling. They're a middling NFL franchise right now. Derek Carr, I probably like more than most as well. I love Chris Olave. Michael Thomas, we'll see what we get. They have a great offensive line. Dennis Allen is a good defensive coach. The way I just spoke about what I'm worried about Arthur Smith might not be is how I kind of know Dennis Allen. Great coordinator, not the guy to take you to 12 wins or anything like that. I think he's just a much better coordinator, and that's not a bad thing. It's a very different job once you're the head football coach in charge there. So had them making the playoffs anyway. Bryce Young, you're right. The Panthers' offensive line looked like shit in the preseason, which worries you, on top of not, DJ Shark is already hurt. Adam Thielen's already hurt. Miles Sanders is banged up. Bryce Young is a rookie. I think Frank Reich, he's a nice guy. After watching what went down in, Indy with a little bit of a dysfunctional owner, I feel like Tepper is like the inverse dysfunctional of Irsay, equally as dysfunctional, it appears to me, but
he's worse than Irsay because he actually thinks he's like a smart dude.
Yeah. He doesn't have the self-deprecation, and he's like a self-made man by marrying a Walton or whatever. All of those things. So I don't know. I had him at 6 wins. Maybe that's too much. The Bucks are the one where I'm like, I again feel like Todd Bowles is a great defensive coordinator. Probably, became a better head coach. Baker, all of these quarterbacks, I feel like I'm like, Baker could have a fine year in a low pressure environment. And that could be, maybe 7 wins. Maybe he keeps them frisky. They do have some talent still on the offensive side of the ball, but I just don't think the offensive line's there. I don't think they have enough of a run game to support Baker. 4-13. Second, they're the Cardinals aren't even a real team to me. So the Bucks are the worst team in the NFC.
Yeah, because they are kind of trying here. I mean, bringing in Mayfield, like you hypothetically want to win some games doing that. I mean, we'll see what happens with Mike Evans. Like, there's some sort of like contract deadline. I have no idea what it's like to deal with that. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, just it's another one where it's just kind of a faceless organization right now. Nothing going on that coaching staff really excites me. Nothing really going on with these players excites me. I love some of their pieces like Evans, like I said, but it just kind of feels like they're at the end of a long road that was very successful for them and winning a Super Bowl, but they're paying the piper now. And that's okay. Sometimes you just got to take a year like that.
Definitely. Well said.
AFC South, I had the 4 seed as the Jacksonville Jaguars, 5-1 within their division. This might surprise some. I had the Indianapolis Colts and Anthony Richardson as the 7 seed at 10-7. I just think that I don't know if he's going to have an Andrew Luck type year, but maybe a rookie Cam Newton type year. I think Cam won like maybe somewhere between 6 and 8 games as a rookie. And I think this is a pretty talented roster overall. And it's not going to be the hardest division in the world, but kind of to that point, like I had these other teams like the Texans. I don't know how this happened. This is another one of those just picking the week by week thing, but I had the Texans at 7-10. 1-5 within the division, which is funny. They really aren't beating up on their division at all. So I'm guessing the schedule just kind of played out a little bit easily. But CJ Stroud, I feel like he can, do some stuff as a rookie. D'Amico Ryans, and our guy Slowick too. He brought over to manage that offense. I think it's a really intriguing coaching staff, and I think they're going to prop them up. Maybe not all the way to 7 wins, but I think they're going to be a solid squad this year. And then Titans at 6-11. I probably should be higher on them than I am on the Texans with the Vrabel effect and everything that's going on. Still there. Yeah, I have a lot of respect for that program. I think they are a program very much. But yeah, just for whatever reason, it didn't shake out. I had them at 6-11. I might swap them in the Texans and maybe even pick the Titans to win more, because that's just what those fuckers do. They're like cockroaches. You can't kill them. They're like Rasputin. But yeah, that's how I had it shaken out.
Love it. A lot of great points there. I feel very strongly in the same direction. You are going to beat me in predictions of this division. I feel like you're spot on with what those records end up being. Jaguars, I have 11-6 as the 4 seed as well. Titans, I have at 8-9 for that exact same reason. Vrabel will beat the shit out of teams like the 49ers do. They will violent you off the field. If you are not ready, they will punch you in the face. Derrick Henry is there. Tannehill is forgotten, I feel like. Tannehill is a fine quarterback.
I legitimately did. There were times this offseason I did forget that he was there. I thought he got traded to the Falcons. It was like your thing with who was it? Was it
Derrick Henry?
Derrick Henry. Yeah, I had moments like that, which was I would look at the roster and be like, oh yeah, Tannehill's still there. I thought they just moved on to Levis, but I guess not. So
they could very easily win a game against the Jaguars. They're a divisional opponent, and then they have Vrabel has 2 rookies in the division to prey on. And, maybe one of those rookies wins one of those games, but I would bet I had the Titans going 4-2 in the division. Then I have the Texans at 6-11. You nailed it. One of the Texans and Colts are going to be good. Going to make the playoffs, going to at least be 500 or better. I guess you can't be 500 anymore, but 8-9 counts as 500 to me.
Let's clean it up, NFL. What the fuck are we doing?
Thank you. Texans 6-11, Colts 5-12. Didn't like it, but it was just like rookie head coach. One of them will probably do good, and I'll be stupid there, but I at least know that it's happening. The Texans, I'm more comfortable with because I feel like they have more talent on their roster to work with, and I feel like D'Amico Ryans is in such a full autonomous state that he can really not have outside impact that is harming him and his ability to create a program. Whereas Irsay and the Jonathan Taylor situation and the Colts, I love Anthony Richardson, was super high on him very early and love all that. They just don't have the depth to me at all to support a rookie. Steichen is probably going to have a nice little offense cooking that can run the ball and score a little bit of points.
And I think that's how I had it playing out. I think I had them get off to a tough start and then like a 2018 Ravens situation, like they just run into a lot of easy teams. And then it's like, oh, Steichen's going to have Richardson on the move. He's going to get, some of these young playmakers involved and they'll just run into 10 wins.
Definitely. And they have a good pass rush is the other kind of saving grace there. They have Kwity Paye. They have DeForest Buckner. They've got some big dogs up front.
Shaq Leonard,
Yes, exactly. They can rumble a little bit, but it's just like – looking at their current situation at the skill positions, their offensive line was incredibly bad last year relative to expectation. Raymond comes in at left tackle. Quentin Nelson has been a shell of his former self. Ryan Kelly's still good. And they have Will Freeze and Braden Smith, could be fine. But then it's like you have Alec Pierce, who's been hurt a little bit, Michael Pittman and Isaiah McKenzie. Josh Downs is there. I wasn't super high on him.
Pretty redundant group in terms of skill sets.
I mean, I think the world of Pittman. Pierce can make some plays. It's just like where
there's just not a lot of diversity there.
Their tight ends are Kyler Granson and Mo Alley Cox. Like, I feel like if they had a Dallas Goedert there, or even an Austin Hooper, maybe like someone around that level, maybe a little better, they could probably feel a little more secure in how they uplift a rookie quarterback. But I do think Richardson has a nice year. I might have him as rookie of the year, but Weird division, like you said it perfectly. The Titans are a cockroach. They're going to punch you in the face. They will fight for a playoff spot. Vrabel's too good of a coach. Tannehill is fine. They could very well like sneak in if they could stay healthy, and like the Browns don't, and the Steelers don't, and the Dolphins don't. Then the Titans may very well end up in the playoffs, in my opinion.
Yep. NFC North, what'd you have?
NFC North, I had the Lions at 10-7. The Vikings at 10-7. I had the Bears at 8-9 and the Packers at 8-9. And oh boy, do I not feel good about that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I had kind of this is so weird looking at this. I had the Vikings. I like the Vikings this year. I'm just a big Kevin O'Connell guy. They might be weirdly coming to the end of the road with Kirk there, but I just like him in that offense. The kid from USC, Addison, I think he's going to fit in there nicely, and Kirk is going to like him. Probably another function of schedule thing though. They go 4-2 in their division. 12-5, like I said, and the 3 seed in the NFC. I had the Packers missing out at 9-8, so they were the 9 seed. Bears at 8-9, Lions at 8-9. I feel like I just got this division beating each other up a little bit, and I think the quality of all of them is maybe even a little bit higher than their records, Vikings notwithstanding. I think they might be a little bit worse than that, but I don't know. I just think this is going to be a slugfest of a division and a couple teams figuring things out. I mean, what are we going to see out of Jordan Love? I think it'll be better than maybe we were expecting a couple years ago when he got that spot start against the Chiefs and looked awful. But I'm not fully sold on him as a franchise quarterback yet. So we'll see what happens there, especially with some of the inexperience of the weapons still. I know Christian Watson looked good at times last year. Dobbs is kind of a question mark to me. So we'll see what happens with that. Bears have a really solid roster, I think, in a lot of ways. I like what Poles has done there. Justin Fields, can he play the guitar? I guess we'll find out. So like I said, 8-9 there. Then Lions 8-9 as well. But a couple things could break pretty easily, and they could be a fringe playoff team there at 10 wins like you have them.
Definitely. And I had the Lions winning the division, the Vikings tying and being the 5 seed. So Lions are the 3 seed there. The Lions offensive coordinator is so good. Their offensive line's so good. They have 2 really good running backs. They have Amon-Ra St. Brown. I just don't feel super comfortable with the rest of their receivers, but I kind of trust, obviously Jameson Williams will come back eventually. Maybe it was a good thing, him getting another 6 weeks off. He has a hammy, I think, and had the ACL and all that. But defensively, I'm a little worried there. They do have an interesting front, and their secondary doesn't really have names on it. Terrible run defense last year, should be a little better. I don't want them to be 10-7. Last year they were I think they have like the hangover darling thing where it's like, oh, they almost made it, and but I had them winning the division ultimately. Bears, like, I don't know. Eberflus is, I don't know enough about Eberflus to be like, I want them to be a 10-11 win team. Like in my mind, that's what I thought was going to happen when I go into it. Obviously, I'm as high on Justin Fields as anyone in the world. I've talked about that ad nauseum. DJ Moore there. Offensive line should be a little bit better. They've got some weird running backs that are okay. Defensively, I think they're making hay, and I trust Eberflus's system. They go get linebackers that they like, which are really important in Eberflus's system. I just don't know what they're made of necessarily. So they're in that same boat as like the Titans and a couple other teams where I have them around 8-9. Should be good. Packers, I honestly thought I thought the Bears and the Packers would be like, oh, that's my sneaky playoff team. And then it just didn't work out for either of them. I like Jordan Love. I like Christian Watson, who is banged up. I like the backs. I like the line. They still have Joe Barry as a defensive coordinator. And that was really the red flag to me, was that when Jordan Love gets to nut cutting time, he's going to have to put up a lot of points without a lot of veteran receivers around him. I think that gets tough later in the year. I could see the Packers starting pretty hot and falling off. So I think this division, like you said, I think that Kirk Cousins is like ascending right now. I think he played really well last year and is doing well. And the playoff game was super disappointing, and he keeps doing that. And that's like the story of his career. Kind of like it's kind of like Tony Romo. Reminds me of Romo. It's like prolific passer, fun, zany guy in a different way. Yeah. It just isn't translating into him elevating to like an MVP or whatever. I like them a lot. They probably win the division. I was surprised that they didn't end up winning it, but we'll see. Weird division.
Yeah, gotta sustain drives and not overwork the shit out of Justin Jefferson, which I think Addison will help with that and everything.
I think Addison has a monster year. Hawkinson and Addison, I think, have really big years.
Yeah, they got Hawkinson all signed up. So yeah,
Justin Jefferson gets double teamed on 30% of his routes.
Yeah,
which is number 1 in the NFL by like 5%.
Yeah, these longer seasons and the more playoff teams, like you got to keep that guy fresh for the playoffs, because it's possible he was gassed for that game against the Giants, who were just ready to just combine harvester over them. Okay. AFC North. I have, surprise, surprise, the Baltimore Ravens winning the division at 11-6, 3-3, Bengals at 10-7. So Ravens were the 3 seed. I had Bengals as the 6 seed at 10-7, also 3-3 in the division. Steelers 9-8 as the 8 seed, 3-3 in the division. Browns 7-10, 3-3 in the division. I think this division beats each other up. I think these are all very talented rosters. I think to varying degrees, each of these quarterbacks has potential to be franchise type quarterbacks, some of which are the best in the league already, 2 of them anyway. And it just came down to, and maybe I was being a little bit of a homer with the Ravens, but I had them getting off to a 2-3 start. Like I was going through it and it's like, man, this could be a rough sledding here in the beginning of the season.
Especially if you're thinking about like Marlon Humphrey and the edges and a couple things.
Yeah, tough schedule. I mean, like I said, these teams are going to beat each other up. They're seeing the Bengals and the Browns within the first month. Going to be tough games. I think they're both away. So that's going to be tough. And yeah, like I said, I had them at 2-3. They do that, then they go to the Steelers, and I had that as their third loss. So they start 2-3, but the schedule kind of softens out in the middle, and I've got them beating up on teams like that. And like I said, it came down to a 1-game difference there: 11-6 for Baltimore, 10-7 for Cincy. And so yeah, I have them in the playoffs, but the Ravens continue the trend of nobody winning the AFC North 3 years in a row.
Pretty similar for me. I had the Ravens at 12-5, also 3-3 in the division. I had the Bengals at 11-6. The Ravens get the 2 seed. The Bengals get the 5 seed. I had the Bengals going 2-4 in the division. I think they're the hunted right now in the division more than like the Ravens were a couple years ago. We saw the rest of the AFC North adjust to them. Burrow with the calf, like even if he's fine,
he says he's fine, but like this stuff can linger. Like
it definitely does. I think it's hard to feel like he's feeling great and like super mobile and he'll like tough through it and he's a gamer and all that, but tough. Steelers I had at 10-7, missing as the 9 seed. Them and the Dolphins both missing at 10-7. Browns I had at 9-8. I just don't know what the hell to do with the Browns. The dysfunction and all of that makes me have them finish a little worse. If Deshaun Watson doesn't play well, it's one of the weirdest situations in the history of the NFL, in my opinion, especially in our lifetime. Their offensive line's fine. They've Nick Chubb, receivers are okay. Joku is a very capable tight end. Zadarius Smith will probably give them 11, 12 games of absolute heat across from Myles Garrett, the best pass rusher they've had. Probably better than Olivier Vernon in his first year. Their secondary can do some things. I don't know, man. It's just Watson is the biggest question mark in this division to me, I think. And they could win the division. They could not have a winning record.
Yep.
The Steelers are really buzzing, and they're everybody's like underdog. I think Good Morning Football was like all like 7 people that they asked all had the Steelers in the wild card, and it was funny that like everyone had them in the playoffs, but no one had them winning the division. It's like some groupthink thing going on. I kind of subscribe to it. Their offensive line is a weird unit to me. Could be better than it has been.
They just moved 2 guys from it, didn't they? That kind of weirded me out. Like
they did. And one of them had started a good bit, but wasn't supposed to. And they've like Isaac Samalu. I thought Kevin Dotson was their best offensive lineman, especially 2 years ago. But I don't know. Then defensively, hey, they should be pretty great defensively. It should be a ferocious pass rush, insane pass rush, really. They brought in Pat Pete, hopefully quells their corner issues. Minka played like one of the best players in football last year. So I don't know. It's just going to come down to, can they beat good teams, I think. And I had them beat a couple, but not a ton. Had them with the best record in the division, though. I think they're going to be a tough out for this division. And the Bengals, Bengals is just they're just going to keep rolling. I think Burrow's just that guy. If he gets hurt, then they're screwed. And if not, then they'll keep on making do. Orlando Brown and Jonah Williams as bookends now. Williams probably a little better on the right side. Orlando Brown, I think, is severely like overhated on, and we've talked about him enough on this podcast, and I guess our previous podcast, I should say. But defense should be good. They should have a really nice unit and have a nice pass rush. I think their corners are in great shape. They do lose Jesse Bates, but they drafted Dax Hill, and I think they have Jordan Battle back there and some other dudes. Their linebackers are fun and pretty even keel. Logan Wilson, Jermaine Pratt, and Akeem Davis-Gaither, those guys usually are putting them in a decent spot. So 11-6 could definitely win the division and kind of a toss-up. And I guess that brings us to the Ravens.
Yeah. So Bengals, I'm sure, and a lot of optimism with a Burrow contract potentially being finalized before kickoff on Sunday. I think that would be really good for them and their vibes because, as I've alluded to, we know what can happen when that doesn't take place before week 1 of the season. So something to monitor there. But yeah, Ravens, like I said, 11-6 in the 3 seed. And then, yeah, that's all of our teams right there. So do you want to move into playoffs now? We can list off each team and then we can get to the wild card round.
Yeah, let's name it off what we had, and then we'll go through there, and then we'll go back and just talk about the Ravens a little bit.
Yep. So I had Chiefs as the 1 seed, 13-4. Like I said, Jets as the 2, 11-6. Ravens as the 3, 11-6. Jaguars as the 4, 10-7. And then Bills as the 5, 11-6. Bengals as the 6, 10-7. And then Colts as the 7 at 10-7.
I had the Chiefs getting a first round bye, Ravens as the 2 seed, Jets as the 3 seed, Jags as the 4 seed, Chargers as the 5, Bills as the 6, Bengals as the 7. I think I messed that up. Bengals is the 5, Chargers is the 7, Bills is the 6. That's what we had.
Okay. NFC, I had San Francisco as the 1 at 13-4, Dallas as the 2 at 12-5, Minnesota as the 3 at 12-5, and then Saints rounding out the pack at 10-7 with the 4, and then Eagles 11-6 were the 5 seed, Giants 10-7 were the 6 seed, and then 7 seed was Seattle at 10-7 as well.
Eagles the 1 seed, 49ers the 2 seed, Lions the 3 seed, Falcons as the final division winner, and I had the Vikings, the Giants, and the Saints to round it out in the NFC.
So for me, I've got a playoff picture with Kansas City and the Jets above the Ravens. And it's interesting. I mean, like the Ravens roster is in a weird spot right now, but I feel like, and it's kind of what I alluded to with their record starting out at 2-3. I think they're going to get better over the course of the year. They're going to start out without Tyus Bowser and Marlon Humphrey. They're going to be relying on some young guys in some key positions and some positions that are already kind of weak. And I think that is going to lead to a uncharacteristically difficult start for John Harbaugh. But they already kind of do this where they get better in the middle of the season, and they've had their late season collapses for sure. But like it's something where they just tend to get stronger as the weather gets colder and as things kind of tend to wear down a little bit. So I'm expecting that again. And like I said, it's definitely a toss up with the Bengals, but I think they get one over on them. They kind of maybe get some revenge there. And it's just straight up, it's just an easier schedule for them than it is for Cincinnati to close the year out. So I don't know. I think, like I said, I think some of these guys are going to come on strong down the course of the year, and then you're going to get healthy at cornerback or healthier with Marlon Humphrey and healthier at outside linebacker with Tyus Bowser coming back. And I think that's a big deal. And this offense, maybe it has a hiccup out of the gate, but I expect them to be gelling by that point and things are going to be rolling. And 11-6.
Agreed on many fronts. Luckily, they play those 2 rookie quarterbacks wedged in there that should give them the ability to tinker a little bit and see how guys react in different situational football, especially defensively. But it's really just they paid their quarterback and then gave him as many resources as possible. They really should. I mean, when you think about it, it's like the Jets have a pretty stacked offense. The Chargers are kind of stacked, I guess. The Bengals, Dolphins have some receivers. Jags have a pretty stacked offense. Ravens are up there, especially in the AFC in terms of talent and their offensive line, skill positions together. So they're going to have to outscore teams. I think that they're taking the fully modern approach to getting away from the identity of the franchise and getting through and scoring at will, being a potent offense that defenses can't beat, and closing games out offensively instead of defensively. But it's not like you don't have Marcus Williams, Roquan Smith, Humphrey coming back, Patrick Queen in there, and a really nice defensive line. So, I think that I had it playing out. I guess I'll just rattle through, the AFC. Do we want to do it that way, or do you want to go ahead and finish yours off?
So I've got like my wild card round screen pulled up here. So I've got all the matchups and I've got who wins what on both sides. So I could just go through the full weekend.
Go through that. I've got mine as well. Give me your playoff picture and then I'll go through mine.
So Jets as the 2 are hosting the Colts as a 7. I had the Jets winning that. Feels like kind of a shoe-in. Jaguars is the 4, hosting the Bills as a 5. I had the Bills getting the road upset there, so they move on into the divisional. And then the Ravens is the 3. They face the Bengals as the 6 naturally. And this would be in Baltimore, and it's just fucking time. And I have them getting that win. Like you gotta, get revenge for last year, and it's time to show yourself that you're on par with the Bengals here. And I don't know. I just feel like with the moves they've made, and some people low key kind of sleeping on them too the last couple of weeks, especially with all the Steelers love, as people are kind of reading into the preseason a little bit with the Steelers. I think just a touch, which is okay. I think they're a solid roster and they'll be good. But yeah, like I said, Bengals coming to Baltimore, Ravens beat them on Wild Card Weekend, and then on the NFC side, I had the Eagles as the 5 seed going to the Saints as the 4 seed. They win there. The Eagles do, that is. So road upset there. And then Vikings play the Giants at home again. I had the Vikings winning this time. That was the 3 versus the 6. And then Cowboys 2 versus Seahawks 7. I had the Cowboys winning that. So that's my wild card weekend.
It's very nice. Keep on going. Rattle through your playoffs.
Okay. Divisional
through your AFC.
Divisional round. This would be fun. I have the Baltimore Ravens going to New York to take on the 2 seed Jets. And you will be shocked to hear that I have the Baltimore Ravens winning that game. Definitely, could be a little bit of a homer pick, but it's not really too far to travel for a playoff game. I don't think that would be a lot to manage from a logistical perspective. John Harbaugh, just way more playoff experience than Robert Saleh. I think he'll have his guys ready to go. A lot of the Ravens players have more playoff experience than a lot of these Jets players. It's, a young team in some ways. Garrett Wilson is one of your big stars. Quinn Williams hasn't really done much in terms of playoff experience. Like you said, they're counting on guys like Mekhi Becton. We'll see what happens with that offensive line. But I mean, they'll be a strong 2 seed, but ultimately, and Aaron Rodgers, not for nothing. He hasn't really shown up in the playoffs the last couple of years. Something that people don't really talk about a ton going into this year, which is understandable. I mean, you want to have that optimism going into the season, but it's going to be a discussion if we do get to this scenario, I think. And I've just got the Ravens getting it done there, which like I said, maybe a homer, but who knows. Bills Chiefs, another matchup in Arrowhead, the 1 seed versus the 5 seed. I just have a hard time betting against the Chiefs in the playoffs. So I have them winning that. Vikings 3 seed go to Cowboys 2 seed. Got the Cowboys winning there, and they advance to the conference championship to take on the San Francisco 49ers, who beat the 5 seeded Philadelphia Eagles. So Niners Cowboys NFC championship game. I feel like that would be sweet. And then, for my conference championship, Ravens go to the Chiefs. And this is definitely me being a homer a little bit, because in any other scenario, I probably would pick the Chiefs here. But I just had the thought that it's like, if your team's going to make it to the Final Four, why not just pick them to go all the way through? So I had the Ravens beating the Chiefs in what would be a miraculously amazing win. And I would probably still be drunk by the time the Super Bowl rolled around if they were to pull that off. But why not just go for it, like I said. And then I had the Niners beating the Cowboys at home, which this would be quite a run for the Niners with Brock Purdy and Sam Darnold and this poo-poo platter of quarterbacks. But I believe that much in Shanny, I think, where it would be weird, but anything can happen. Ravens 49ers meet for a Super Bowl rematch. And of course, I picked the Ravens. Of course. I mean, and it's like, that's really, I do feel that this team, and like I said, they're going to get better over time, and I feel like they have the potential to make it to a conference championship on talent and coaching alone. I would probably like it better if they had a little more playoff experience, but they really don't. And I mean, they've had negative experiences there thus far, but all it takes is one galvanizing win, and you can kind of turn that reputation around a little bit. And I think this could be the year potentially where they get it done. And picking with my head, I had them getting to the divisional round. It wouldn't be crazy if they upset the Chiefs in New York at all. And then,
the Jets in New York.
Yeah, exactly. And then you start to pick with your heart a little bit by the time you get to the conference championship game. It's kind of a wash. So I got them there, and then I was like, all right, you know what? Let's just ride this out. Ravens winning the Super Bowl this year. That's my prediction.
There you go. Call your shot. I'll go backwards. I have the Giants losing to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. I got there from the Niners hosting the Giants, who the Giants defeat. I had the Chiefs hosting the Ravens and the Chiefs. That is my bold prediction. Exact same thing happened for you. They play in the playoffs. I don't know I guess the Ravens would have to probably be the wild card. Maybe the Chiefs don't win their division, but I'm not gonna count on that. So otherwise, it's going to be in the championship game. I just think those two teams have a destiny that is not yet achieved of playing in a playoff game that will be great. We've seen Allen versus Mahomes. We've seen Burrow versus Mahomes. I think we see Jackson versus Mahomes. And I'm going to go with the Chiefs.
Of course, with Jackson Mahomes.
Jackson Mahomes. There will be plenty of jokes about it. I feel like the Ravens can't get pressure with 4. until proven otherwise. And that's why I think the Chiefs win. I can see Lamar Jackson like having a great playoffs, kind of like what we saw. To be a homer, this is my homer take. Like Joe Flacco struggled in the playoffs. They managed to win a couple games despite him in many ways. Lamar Jackson's had a couple of clunkers that they didn't win. Now we see maybe Lamar Jackson turn on in the playoffs with a bevy of weapons, have a 2-3 win run, or I guess a 2-win run or so, getting to the championship game, coming that close. They just still, I don't know that they have that guy at receiver still to like dominate in the end, whatever, but it's more so defensively. I just think you have to be able to get pressure with 4. Mahomes will put up 30 points on you at will. He'll put up 24, 30, 35 in the playoffs on you. And, whoever gets the ball last. So that's my prediction.
And that's it's funny. Like that's how it worked in the one time that they did beat Mahomes, where it was a total shootout and a total track meet, but they also were really smart in the way that they played him, where they kind of went mush rush and they forced turnovers. And they definitely got lucky with that fumble at the end with Owe, but like they had a couple sacks. They had, I think 1 or 2 interceptions in that game. So it's going to need to be explosive plays from the defensive side of the ball to hang in a matchup like that.
Definitely. So, thin at corner, thin at pass rusher. The offense is your pass rush in your corners, which is a good approach. Maybe they make a move or something like that. The way I had the Ravens getting there was by beating the Chargers in the wild card. And then I had them beating the Jags at home in the divisional round to go play the Chiefs there. Overall, I had the Jets losing to the Bills, the Jags beating the Bengals, which then turned into the Chiefs beating the Bills, the Ravens beating the Jags, and that's how they got there. So in the NFC, I'm going with the Giants, man. I'm going with the Giants. I think they have the right anti-movement. They have like the 2016, 2017, 2015. The quarterback's not that expensive. Great offensive line. They've got some players at all levels defensively. The weapons should be a little bit better. I don't know if they have the receivers, so maybe that's why I'm stupid. Saquon's there. I think they can do everything well. I think they'll be able to rush the passer. I think they'll be able to cover. I think they'll be able to stop the run. They have Dexter Lawrence inside. Offensive line will help them run the ball. They can throw the ball enough because of Daboll's scheme, and they brought in better receivers. So I really like the Giants. I had them beating the 49ers in the conference championship. I had the Niners beating the Saints, the Lions losing to the Giants, the Falcons beating the Vikings, which is maybe my stupidest and boldest prediction of this whole thing. The Falcons not only winning their division, but then beating the Vikings in the playoffs.
Have a take on some of these teams. Some of these people that just go so chalk. Like it's kind of boring. Like
I'm going chalk. I only had 4 new teams in the playoffs. No, that's why I think it sucks. There's going to be more than that.
But people would pick against the Falcons just because they're bored by Ritter. Or they don't think he's going to be good. Like have a take and say a guy's going to break out. I like that.
Exactly. I think Ritter is like solid as hell, and they run the shit out of the ball and have a authoritative defense in place and take that next step. It's got to be somebody. Like out of the NFL, when I'm looking around, it's like, okay, maybe it's the Commanders, the Bears or the Packers, the Falcons.
It happens every year.
The Steelers or the Broncos. Those are the teams. One of them is going to play in the divisional or conference championship round or something. There has to be one new team. I had the Giants going, pretty far here, and the Ravens, who were not there last year at all. So a little bit of a mix up at the very top. I had the Eagles losing to the Giants in the playoffs in a shocker. So I think this is a fun year for the Giants, the Eagles, the Niners. The NFC North is weird. The NFC South is bad, and somebody's going to come out, and I think it's the Falcons. And then we've got, Herbert, Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Aaron Rodgers, Josh Allen, and Trevor fucking Lawrence in the AFC. Those are the quarterbacks in the AFC in the playoffs. So it is stacked to the gills. It is loaded. And I frankly, when I'm looking at this now in retrospect, I bet on all the quarterbacks. I didn't bet on Russell Wilson. I didn't bet on Kenny Pickett or Deshaun Watson. I didn't bet on Tua. And in the NFC or the AFC South, I bet on Trevor Lawrence and nobody else. So that's how this turned out for me. And I'm confident that at least 5 of those teams will get to the playoffs.
So you had Chiefs beating the Giants in the Super Bowl? Is that what it was?
I had the Chiefs beating the Giants in the Super Bowl. I had the Chiefs beating the Ravens in the AFC Championship and the Giants beating the Niners in the NFC Championship.
That's pretty damn saucy. The Giants going all the way to the Super Bowl. I like that. Niners, Giants, NFC Championship. That'll be fun. Shout out to Kyle Williams. Rematch of that game.
I probably am an idiot. Last year I took the Packers to go to the Super Bowl. So NFC, I don't know what the heck's going on over there.
I think I did too, actually.
We might have.
Yeah.
Might have matched. We might have both had Chiefs Packers, which was a super popular matchup.
It was.
Then we realized that they literally didn't have anyone to throw the ball to. And
Aaron was, going through some stuff.
He most certainly was.
Yeah. So that is the full NFL deep dive. Anything else before we close up shop here?
Let's say why don't the Ravens make the playoffs as our I guess we could say as our one thing. Why don't the Ravens make the playoffs this year? I think that they play a weird schedule and they don't get enough done defensively. They are thin in two key spots. They get thinner there and aren't able to get it done because of that. And then I'll say offensively, let's say that, they just have a weird time. Todd Monken maybe has a weird time and they turn the ball over a little bit too much late in games, something like that offensively. I think those are the key things there. But I mean, exciting year. Todd Monken coming in, going to push the ball downfield. I think J.K. Dobbins is in line to do disgusting, filthy, dirty things this year, despite what anybody says about him. He is fucking good at football. He is the best, like on a field with anybody else, you'll watch him and say, that's the best player on the field at moments throughout a game. He moves different. He's built a little different. I think he's in for a 1,500-yard all-purpose, 10-plus touchdown year. I'm a little worried about Mark Andrews being dinged up. Hopefully, he did practice today. He was limited. It was a quad, which makes me feel better. It's a quad. I don't know. But that's why I think the Ravens would miss the playoffs, and the fact that they play in a tough-ass division. Let's say the Steelers do it and the Browns do it, and the Ravens end up somehow 9-8 with some injury problems, and 3 teams from the AFC North go to the playoffs and not one of them. But I think the Ravens are headed to an 11, 12, maybe even a 13-win year and a fun season.
Yeah, they could miss by getting off to that bad start that I mentioned and just not recovering. Like Humphrey's injury could maybe linger and maybe he doesn't come back or he's not the same when he re-enters the lineup. Same thing could happen with Bowser. I mean, that's a sneaky big guy to not have in the lineup. Lamar Jackson also said today that he's anxious about getting back out there. He hasn't played football since December 7th. I mean, they played 5-6 games without him to end the year. So, he's coming off an injury too. And hopefully everything's good there, but that could be a little bit of a readjustment. And then, can Todd Monken play the guitar? I guess we're going to find out. But the talent's there on the offensive side of the ball. So if they don't succeed, you got to look pretty much squarely at him, especially with all that they have accomplished with Lamar. It needs to be a step forward. I expect it to be, but that could be maybe one of the reasons why things don't work out. And just depth on defense could be a little bit better, certainly. But, I feel like if they need depth severely, I think moves are going to be made mid-season. So we'll see what happens. But I'm right there with you. Like I said, I had them at 11 and wins, and I picked them to win the fucking Super Bowl. So I certainly am not expecting a collapse this year.
Likewise, we had them conference championship and Super Bowl winners. It would be sick on the 10-year anniversary of them winning the Super Bowl if, like my theory is, they win one Super Bowl per decade for my entire life. That's what I think happens here. So maybe it'll be next year, maybe it'll be this year, maybe it'll be 2029. But I think they get it done at some point in the 2020s.
If they do that and the Patriots never win another one, we'll probably see them have the most Super Bowls of all time if that holds up before we exit stage.
I'll be dead by 60. I'll be dead way before.
Oh, stop. You're going to be around forever.
I'll see the Ravens win 5 Super Bowls in my life. That's my prediction.
Okay. Well, I hope you're right.
Patrick Queen, huge year. Roquan Smith, Patrick Queen, Marcus Williams, Kyle Hamilton. That's who needs to step up, and the Ravens need to have a big defensive performance.
They're built up the middle of the defense. They are like the Orioles. Like they're just,
They are like the Orioles. That's a good call.
Spinal, just completely spinal tap of a defense.
That's what Elias and DeCosta have cooking. We're going to be strong up the middle.
Hey, DeCosta and Sig and Elias too. I think they're all pretty good friends, so it makes sense.
Yeah, they borrow Sig for the draft. Plus, that transfers the offensive side of the ball. They drafted a center in the first round. They paid a quarterback $250 million, and they have invested a little bit at running back. They got Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins. I'll throw Justice Hill in there. They're strong from running back through safety. They are strong.
Middle out. And they finally figured it out at wide receiver too this year. So they've got, even on the offensive side of the ball, they figured it out at the perimeter there at least. So.
What do we say about Zay Flowers at the end of this football season?
Great talent. I don't know if the production is going to be like 1,000 yards, but I'm expecting somewhere like 800 to 900 and probably like 7 to 8 touchdowns. I think he's going to look really fucking good. I don't know. Like I said, there's a lot of mouths to feed on this offense, which is a good problem to have. And I think he will be a top one. I mean, he's listed as 3rd on the depth chart right now, technically, with Bateman and Odell as the number ones. But he's going to get a lot of looks out of the slot. He's going to have a lot of one-on-ones that I think he's going to absolutely eat against. And that's not even counting the tight ends and the running threat in this offense. Like there's just going to be a lot of attention to devote a lot of places, and they're going to take full advantage with the skill set that he has, because he just looked like and I don't want to overreact to preseason, but he just looked like a different player than a lot of the guys out there on the field in the preseason.
I agree very much so. I think he's a playmaker, and I think he's the one that stays healthy of the three big ones and ends up doing a lot after the catch. I think Monken gets him the ball in space a ton. I think him and Dobbins do a lot of damage in the open field this season. I'll throw a bold prediction out. I think that Kyle Hamilton, I think he has an all-pro year. I think he has at least a Pro Bowl year. I think Kyle Hamilton looks like a stud. I think him and Marcus Williams do some absolute damage as a yin and a yang back there. I'm excited to see how McDonald deploys him specifically and what that role will look like. But I think Kyle Hamilton's prime. My bold prediction about Kyle Hamilton, I think he's going to have like 5 sacks. I think he's going to have a lot of sacks and like 3-4 forced fumbles. And I think that's why he gets like some nods. I think he has some good stats. I think he has like 85 tackles, like 4.5 to 5.5 sacks, like 3 forced fumbles, breaks up some passes, has some game-winning plays, some things like that. He started to really look like that All-American Ken Griffey Jr. type at the end of the season last year. And him and Marcus Williams are going to have that middle out compression working wonders with Smith and Queen for this defense to be effective, especially early on.
Yep, no doubt. So very exciting things to look forward to in a lot of different respects. And there are certainly issues with depth and some question marks for sure as far as talent in top end areas in certain positions. But overall, strong roster. Coaching staff is very strong as well, and excited to see what they do this year.
Rock Ya-Sin, last player I'll say. If Rock Ya-Sin stays healthy, I think the secondary gets it done. I think Marlon
and plays well too. Like he's gonna have to like really hold things up here.
I think as long as he's healthy, he does play well. I think in that same vein of what a Mike McDonald corner can be asked to do on the easier side of things, especially with Marlon out, I think they protect them with those safeties. So I'll say that's kind of my X factor. Rock Ya-Sin staying healthy. I think he plays well if he's healthy. And Marlon Humphrey's a freak, man. Like he is a genetic freak. He is a world-class sprinter. Is literally insane, like not even in like a cool way, but like a weird way. And he'll be back. Like Marlon Humphrey will be fine by week 8. He'll be fine. He's a psycho. So give me a healthy Ya-Sin, and I think this team can go pretty far.
What's going to happen if they beat the Bengals in week 2 and then that flight? Is he going to still be able to? I wonder if he travels with the team and he still does the Instagram Live.
I don't even want to know what he would be doing if he wasn't on that plane. He'll after hours Marlin after a game that he wasn't a part of. Who knows what that entails? Yeah,
there would be a lot of really funny jokes cracked. You got to think that all the guys would be laughing really hard at the material that he bring to that for sure. So.
At A+ material.
Yeah. Okay.
Baltimore Ravens 2023 NFL season is here. We have Chiefs Lions tomorrow. It is going to be spectacular. Very excited for the jumbo set. We're going to try to have a really set schedule. Jake and I are about to lock that down best we can, give you guys some fixated times throughout the season. Something we got a little away from last year. We went a little crazy last year at times. It was a weird season. Lamar Jackson situation was weird, but we'll be trying to bring you guys some consistent content along with the flagship pod too. So keep your eyes out. Jumbo set will be going long and strong throughout the season. I'm super fired up to go into the new era of Lamar Jackson, the paid Lamar Jackson era. Alongside with you, we have a little rebrand ourselves with the jumbo set. Lamar Jackson has a little rebrand with quarter of $1 billion. So fired up. We're moving along with Lamar here in our timelines.
Yep, exactly. And so to that point, for a more in-depth preview of the Texans game, you can check that out on Friday on this same podcast feed that you're listening to under the main flagship Exit 52 podcast. It'll probably be me, you, and Brian. Maybe we'll get Taylor in the mix, and Eric not going to be having to hop on these as much, thankfully, now that we're in the mix. Thankfully for everyone, really, and mainly for his sanity, I think. So we'll have that out for you. If you're still interested in listening to Orioles stuff, you can check it out tomorrow. Eric and Brian, I think, are sitting down tonight to talk a little bit about what's been going on with them. Big getaway game tonight with Kyle Gibson getting the start there on the mound. And as you're listening to this, that episode will already be out. So Check that out if you want to get your Orioles fix. Shout out to all our sponsors. We did not have a segmented show today, so I didn't shout them out as we went. But of course, Jimmy's Seafood presenting Black Eyed Susan Spices in the mix, as well as Fed Thrill sunglasses. For Black Eyed Susan and Fed Thrill, you can use code EXIT52 on their respective websites for 10% off. And then for Jimmy's, if you want to attend a little meet and greet with Grayson Rodriguez, check out their website, jimmysfamousseafood.com. Check out their events tab. That is going to be Grayson, like I said, a little meet and greet at the bar at Jimmy's, and Eric Arditi, Exit 52's own, will be in the mix there, helping to co-host that event. So it's going to be really fun. Like I said, September 25th. Check out their events tab on their website, and go get yourself some tickets now and enjoy. So thank you guys for listening. It's been a really fun start to this little venture, like you said, and it's going to continue. We're probably going to be doing at least one of these a week, and then have the previews and reviews be more of a flagship podcast thing. So it's going to be fun, like I said, and looking forward to it. So until then, we will see you.
See you.
Arrivederci.
Play really, really hard, and they execute your system, and that's what it's all about. Yes,
There
sir.
it is.
Trust. Big trust. Big trust, baby.
Hey, yes, sir.
Right on cue. Hey, right on cue. Hey, let me close.